everybody. I am the director of the Museum of Ventura County, as Eric just said, and I am delighted that you are here for this special conversation with the incomparable Malcolm McDowell, which is the second installment of the Up Close and Personal series with Ivor Davis. These programs are designed to give you a front row seat in an intimate conversation with some of our region's most talented and amazing individuals. Before we start, I'm going to just do a little housekeeping. One of the special things about this evening is that we will set aside time for Ivor and Malcolm to take your questions. So please put your questions in the Q&A part of the Zoom, not the chat. Otherwise, we won't see your incredible questions, Q&A. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the talented, visionary, and just extraordinarily nice Ivor Davis. Ivor.
Good evening, and thank you very much. Welcome. I know exactly when the first time I encountered the young Malcolm McDowell. It was in a private screening room at Warner Brothers studio in Burbank, California, precisely 50 years ago. Now, the studio had screened his very latest movie for a select group of entertainment writers, and we knew nothing about the film, only that it was based on a book by English writer Anthony Burgess, and it was directed by an American filmmaker, Stanley Kubrick, who was known for films like Paths of Glory and Spartacus. Now, when the lights came on after 136 minutes, there was utter silence, not a whisper, because everyone was in a deep state of shock. The movie, of course, was Clockwork Orange, and frankly, no one really at that time knew what to make of it. Here's what the Pulitzer Prize-winning critic Roger Ebert wrote about the film when it first came out. A Clockwork Orange is an ideological mess, a paranoid right-wing fantasy masquerading as an Orwellian warning. It pretends to oppose the police state and forced mind control, but all it really does is celebrate the nastiness of its hero, Alex. And then it went on, the film, to be nominated for 4 Oscars, including Best Picture and Director. It lost out to The French Connection. It did, however, win the New York Film Critics Award, the Venice Film Festival Award for the Best Movie. So what did Roger Ebert know? Now here, half a century later, and the star of the film, Malcolm McDowell, has done rather well in his career. Okay, make that exceptionally well, because today, Clockwork Orange is considered a masterpiece. Now, rather than me try to list his superb and memorable films, some 300, yes, 300 roles, not to mention his television career, I'm delighted and thrilled to have Malcolm as my guest to talk about his phenomenal career. If truth be told, we actually need 10 hours at least to cover the McDowell waterfront. So Malcolm, welcome, and good to see you. Everybody's looking forward to you. And I want to start before we show any
By the way, Ivor, let me just say one thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but while I still remember this, thank you for picking probably the only mediocre or bad review we got for Clockwork Orange. It's just amazing how the journalist in you picks the controversial piece to bring up just to irritate the guest.
Yes, no, but the amazing thing is it shows you how bloody wrong he was.
What an idiot he was. I know. I could have told you that, but he was an old gas bag, wasn't he? I don't think he's around anymore. So
no, he's not around anymore.
Speak ill, no, but I know, but
you're right. You're right. I mean, I'm a journalist, and you know, I can't get it out of my blood, Malcolm. Sorry. Anyway,
No.
let me just ask you this. You're looking terrific. I was a little bit nervous a few weeks ago. Can you just give us, because you're a bit under the weather. You look good. Can you give us a quick update?
Well, I'm one of the 25 or 6 million who got the virus. And, I've been locked up in the house for pretty much the year. But it was my 12-year-old son's birthday, and he wanted a cake from Vons. Those awful blue icing things, they're horrible. But he, of course, wanted it. So I took him down there. And the next day I heard half of the staff at Vons had contracted the virus. And I was one of the customers that not only got a cake, but also got the virus. But luckily, touch wood, it was fine. It was, it didn't really affect me too badly.
Good. I'm glad to see you bouncing in your usual
bouncing back
feisty way. Anyway, can you tell us, before we show any footage, about your rocket-propelled start in the movies and those two influential directors in your life, first Lindsay Anderson and then Mr. Kubrick?
Well, I was an actor for 4 years before I did a movie. And which, when you're 20 years old, that's a long time. And, I've been at the Royal Shakespeare Company and at Stratford-on-Avon and at the Aldwych in London, the Royal Court Theatre. But I always knew somehow that my ambition was always to work in film. That I loved. I love films more than, and I always found the theater a bit, now this is in those days, a little bit stuffy and who cares, I've seen it all before kind of thing. But so I was very lucky. I went for an audition I had no idea what it was about. I just rushed to the audition to meet this man. Turned out to be Lindsay Anderson, one of the greatest directors that England ever produced. And he was a magnificent human being. It was like working with an Oxford Don. He was so knowledgeable and such a great teacher, he used to, of course, he used to have a real go at me and, and say things like, you call yourself an actor, you don't even know anybody in the business. I mean, who was Jean Arthur? I'd say, Jean Arthur, I know who he was. No, not a he, it's a woman. She was a brilliant comedian and stuff like this. So he used to humiliate me a little bit, but it was all to kind of teach me that, that if you're going to do something, then you better do it properly, do your homework, find out what it is you're getting involved in. And he was such a great, great teacher, so that by the time I came to Stanley Kubrick, which was a couple of years later, because Kubrick had seen If, and when he saw If, he turned to his wife in the screening room, she told me this, and said, "We found our Alex." And that was it. And, Kubrick was a very, very different personality, of course, to Lindsay. Lindsay was, as I said, like working with an Oxford Don or something, and a great teacher and sage, and wisdom was pouring out of every pore of his. But Stanley was very different, and he was much more interested in the techniques of film. He'd just done 2001, which is absolutely a masterpiece and one of the greatest science fiction films ever made. And it took science fiction movies on a millennium jump. Before Stanley, it was cardboard sets and Flash Gordon. And, Stanley made this movie, 2001, where nobody spoke for the first 45 minutes. Well, you can imagine what the suits at MGM were like, absolutely going nuts. And you talk about bad reviews. 2001 got absolutely scathing reviews. And it wasn't until a little bit later that a very interesting guy called Mike Kaplan, who's a dear friend of mine, actually, Mike, who worked in the MGM publicity office, he realized that all the counterculture were great reviews saying, you must go, this is one, the masterpiece, go see it, have a hit of whatever it is and go in and see it. And so suddenly it took off and they changed all the ads. Mike came up with an amazing ad of a fetus which said the ultimate trip. And that's what started the ball rolling in terms of the audience, going to see that movie. And anyway, so there you are. I started with two very, very great directors. And
well, we are going to come, Malcolm, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are going to come back to Kubrick because you told me some great stories and you've told great stories about Kubrick. Before we talk about your experiences with Kubrick, I'm going to ask Jonathan if he minds playing a very short clip of a young man talking about a movie. And I always, and well, you'll see what I mean. When you watch it, we'll talk about it and you'll give me your reaction, please.
I'll come back on Oh Lucky Man, but you just said Clockwork Orange. Have you any idea how Kubrick get the idea to ask you to play the part?
Well, Stanley told me that when his lawyer sent him this novel by Anthony Burgess, Clockwork Orange, Stanley had just seen If. He saw it 4 times. He really loved the film. And when he started to read the novel, from the 3rd page, he just saw my face all the time. I don't know why.
Tell me why.
I don't know why. You'll have to ask him. Well, that's more difficult than it sounds, actually, because he never ever does a television or very rarely does any press interviews. I think probably he's correct, because he's not an articulate man in that way. He's a brilliant director, but he's not like Mr. Anderson, who is a marvelous raconteur. He has the command of the English language. Stanley is very quiet, really, and thoughtful. So he doesn't do many. Never does television ever, I don't think. And for him, he's right. He's right.
Well, Malcolm, tell us, when you see something like that, what's your gritty reaction to that young man talking?
A pompous little asshole. No. I mean, my God, where did I get the confidence from? I mean, I didn't think that I knew what the hell I was talking about. But it's interesting, because I think, again, you have to learn how to to go out and talk to people and talk to the press. And that's another side of being an actor, and that's something that you're not really taught to do. You just have to pick it up and get on with it. Yeah. But I have a feeling that interview was done in London, I believe, but I have no real idea where it was done, but I think it was done in London. And, I can't tell you what a sort of change in my life that film caused, because it was a tsunami. It was like, it was the biggest hit in terms of box office, but it was also an artistic movie. It wasn't, a mindless Marvel green screen thing or something like that. It was a film that actually, and I disagree with Roger Ebert here, about something. And it showed it was a warning about our future and what's to happen, and Big Brother. And yes, I played a thoroughly nasty human being in it, an immoral man, But having said that, how bad he couldn't be all bad if he loved Beethoven, let's face it. And so there were always these wonderful parts of this character that I could use to win over the audience a little bit.
Malcolm, we are going to come back again to your wonderful experiences with Kubrick, but I thought this is the opportune moment, Jonathan, to show this wonderful retrospective of some of Malcolm's roles, and I think you'll enjoy it. So please sit back, enjoy what you're about to see. So hit it, please.
Beg your pardon? Smile.
Why?
Just do it.
I'm afraid I can't smile without a reason.
God, you're ugly. You look evil.
Yeah. My face is a never-fading source of wonder to me.
I know why you're here. You're not entirely confident you can shoot down my probe, so you've come to dissuade me from my horrific plan. Good luck. Now, if you'll excuse me, Captain, I'm rather busy. I tell you, if you follow these rules, then, when the last roll call comes, you'll be able to go up before the great headmaster with a clean British conscience and say, well, sir, I tried to do my duty. I am talking about traveling through time in a machine constructed for that very purpose. People, we have a traitor in our midst. Let this be a lesson to all of you.
You're making a very big mistake, Terence.
Oh, that's what Arthur Jensen said in 1973. He was the first conspirator that I ever dealt with. Try finding him now, Ari. He's selling auto insurance in Reseda.
We're going to teach people about the world they lost. Help them start to rebuild it. I mean, look, Shakespeare, Britannica, missing only a few volumes.
There's a whole series of beautiful Mozart and Wagner records in still very pristine condition, but never a Bible. Well, not until now.
I, Caligula Caesar, command in the name of the Senate and people of Rome. I, Caligula Caesar, command in the name of the Senate and the people of Rome. I, Caligula Caesar, command in the name of the Senate and the people of Rome. I, Caligula Caesar, command in the name of the Senate and the people of Rome. I, Caligula Caesar, command in the name of the Rome. I, Caligula Caesar, command in the name of the Senate and the people of Rome. I, Caligula Caesar, command in the name of the Senate and the people of Rome. Rome, Caesar, Caesar, Rome, rubbish, rubbish, rubbish.
Finally made colonel, eh?
If you're a nice guy, nice things happen to you.
I'll try to remember that.
What we've built here from the ashes is pure blood, uninfected by the outside world. Until now.
Because you're scared. You won't. And why wouldn't I? Because I'm the one that gives you Charlie McGee. It's strange, Michael. In
in a weird way, you've become like my best friend.
This is a work for which I need your help.
Yes, but what's going to happen to me? Will I come out the same as I went in?
Girl, this is foul. I know. I'm really, really sorry.
Sorry you said it, or sorry you got caught?
What's the cargo?
Can't tell until we get there.
That's fine by me. I've never been to Colorado River, but I have an aunt in Denver.
If you have a friend on whom you think you can rely, you are a lucky man. If you found the reason to live on and not to die, you are a lucky man. Preachers and poets and scholars don't know it. Temples and statues and steeples won't show it. If you've got the secret, just try not to blow it. Stay a lucky man. A lucky man. Takers and fakers and talkers won't tell you. Teachers and preachers will just buy and sell you. When no one can tempt you with heaven or hell, you'll be a lucky man. You'd be better by far to be just what you are. You can be what you want if you are what you are, and that's a lucky man. Oh yeah, a lucky man. And that's a lucky man. A lucky man.
Well, thank you for watching that, because Lorenzo Di Stefano of the Ventura Film Society provided us with that magnificent retrospective of Malcolm's career, and he's pressing on regardless. Malcolm, can I take you back a moment to Stanley Kubrick? Because I remember once you told me that he was like a father figure to you, and then he wasn't, because they did terrible things to you and your eyes in that movie, didn't they?
Well, I went through quite a bit of pain, but that's no big deal in a way. I was young, and I knew that I was part of something that was quite extraordinary, and that scratch corneas, even though they were very nasty, wouldn't last very long. And so I was injured quite a bit. Actually, an actor put his shoe right through my rib cage, and I had a blood clot under my ribs that was, I didn't find out for a week, and I could barely move. And then the doctor came and stuck a needle right between my ribs. That was fun. But listen, it was art for art's sake. I was a young kid. I didn't mind. I just wanted to work on great stuff with great people. And I did that, and it's funny seeing all those weird things. Some of those things, I don't even know what they were. No recollection of saying these lines at all, but then that's because I'm getting pretty old and I can't remember anything. But it's extraordinary, really, to see it, because it's sort of like going through the family album or something, and you see your whole life really before you. But since that, Lorenzo did a great job, and the Ventura Film Festival is fantastic, by the way. He also directed a wonderful film about that girl. Yes. But I've done a few things since then, and I guess one can get sort of bound up in the past. It's 50 years since Clockwork Orange. I mean, really, I've got nothing else to say about it except how lucky was I to do it, to be chosen. And I always say to young actors that are finding it tough, it's only one phone call. That's it. And I got that phone call from Kubrick.
Yes.
And, and a lot of other actors have had the call. So you never know. Stay in there, hang in.
Malcolm, did I heard the story, I don't know whether it was fiction, that originally they thought of giving the role of Alex either to Mick Jagger or even the Beatles. Was that fiction or was any truth to that?
There is a sort of truth to it, because the one of the associate producers on Clockwork, well, there's two of them, Cy Litvinov and Max Rabb. They bought the book from Burgess for a pittance. So Burgess told me, and was really screwed by these two guys from Hollywood. Well, hey, we've heard that story before. But, and so I think that it was their idea, because the Rolling Stones were so big at the time, they'd just broken in. And they, by the way, loved the book. All these musicians, these young musicians, the Stones, the Beatles, they all knew the book. And it was kind of a real kind of underground kind of thing that they all knew about. And in fact, in some of the Stones songs, the early songs, they talk in the Nadsat, they sing in it. Anyway, I think the idea, but it was never taken any further. It was just an idea. And they didn't have a director, they didn't have a script or anything like that, they didn't have a budget, they didn't have the money. So, but Mick had done this movie called Deliverance, which was a wonderful film with James Fox, and it was really directed by Nick Rogue, co-directed by him, and Donald Cammell. And it was a really wonderful film, and Mick was extremely good in it. So he had a bit of a film career going for a while, but then he went to Australia and played Ned Kelly, and that was kind of the end of that. Yeah. But he stuck to his daytime job. He wasn't doing too badly.
Not a shabby job.
No.
Malcolm, I must stay on Clockwork for a moment, because again, I remember reading you saying that you kind of featured the Alex role on a famous actor doing a famous Shakespearean part, and that was amazing.
Well, there were many things that I thought when I read it. When I read it 3 times before I called Kubrick back. The first time I didn't understand a word of it. The second time I thought, wow, how's he going to make this? And then the third time I read it, I went, oh my God, this is a part sent from heaven. What an extraordinary character. So in my mind, because of the language that Burgess invented and stuff, I had it in my mind of Laurence Olivier playing Richard III. And, comes up, he's all twisted and, and now is the winter of our discontent and all that. And I suddenly thought, oh my God, I can do the language like Shakespeare. And that's the way I kind of did it, But most of the language is in the voiceover. There's a huge voiceover element to the movie, and it's really like the soul of Alex. And that's when you hear a lot of this wonderful language. And, people really loved when they first came out. I can't tell you, people were talking like that all the time. It was like amazing.
What about the singing in the rain? Because it wasn't in the book, was it?
No, well, I just came out with that. We were trying to figure a way of doing this scene, which was extremely brutal. It was a rape and the beating of this writer, and up until that point, what we'd shot was shot in a style that was not, it wasn't naturalism. It had a heightened sense to it, of a sort of a comedic sense. And then suddenly we came bang up against this sequence. And literally we sat there for 5 days. The camera did not turn. And I remember distinctly, Kubrick, I was sitting on these stairs. Kubrick passed me, and out of the corner of his mouth, he said, "Can you dance?" And I leapt up. I went, "Can I dance?" And I was so bored doing nothing, sitting there. And I went straight into Singing in the Rain on the beats, doing the wax. And Kubrick laughed so hard he stuffed his handkerchief in his mouth. He grabbed hold of me, shoved me in his car, drove back to his house, bought the rights to Singing in the Rain, and we went back and took another week to shoot it. But amazing. Yeah. And so it sort of became a key point in the movie, because it's also how Alex is discovered as the killer and the rapist and stuff. And so it is fairly brutal, but it's sort of juxtaposition. You know, it's a man who's singing about the wonders of life and happy, happy, happy. Yeah. And of course, Alex is happy, happy, happy when he's doing this very antisocial behavior. So a year later, when the film had opened, huge hit and all the rest of it, and my minder from Warner Brothers said, "Hey, there's a party in the flats of Beverly Hills. There's going to be lots of old movie stars. You want to come?" And I went, "Yeah, oh, I'd love to. Oh my God, who's going to be there?" And he went through a list, and we get there. He comes up to me and he goes, "You won't believe it, but Gene Kelly's here. Do you want to say hi?" I went, "Oh my God, I would love to say hi." So he had his back to us, and the minder goes up and taps him on the shoulder. He looked around and he goes, "Gene, I'd like to introduce you to Malcolm McDowell." He looked at me. He turned around and walked off. Wow. Cut me dead. So the minder goes, "Oh, I apologize. I'm so sorry." And I went, "Hey, don't apologize. I totally get it. I took his moment and really screwed with it." I said, of course, he doesn't realize it's an homage to him, and that it was such an extraordinary moment in film history that, of course, it affected me as Alex and as Malcolm. So years go by, and I did a talk at the Academy, and this beautiful older lady came by and said, "Malcolm, I just want to tell you something. I'm Gene's widow." I went, "Oh my God." She goes, "He wasn't pissed with you. He was pissed with Stanley." And I went, "Well, why was he pissed with Stanley?" He goes, "Well, he never paid him."
Oh.
I went, "Oh yeah, that's Stanley. All right."
Malcolm, can we move on to 1979? I first met you on the movie Time After Time, in which you played H.G. Wells, but you tell a wonderful story, and can you tell us about it? How you were very lucky to be able to get the voice of H.G. Wells, but what happened?
Well, I thought, in London, about to leave for Hollywood to do this film, and I thought, well, the Americans are very into the method and everything. I better do some research on H.G. Wells, And I thought, I wonder if I can find and hear his voice, because he was around when radio was in. It must be. So I called a friend of mine at the BBC who went into the archives and brought around a gramophone record, a 78, of an interview, part of an interview of H.G. Wells on the radio in 1928 or something. And so I put the thing on, it clicked, click, click. And then I heard this voice. It was so like that, Southeast London, and he's talking like that, and it's so high, it sounds like a woman. And I thought, that can't be H.G. Wells? Oh yeah, no, it was H.G. Wells, all right. Yeah, oh yeah. And I thought, oh my God, I can't play it like that. I mean, nobody will go see it. So of course I just sent the record back, thank you very much, and then we forgot about that. And I just did my own version of H.G. Wells, the one. And in any case, it's a love story. You know, it's a beautiful film. I'm very fond of the film, and I love it for many reasons. The main reason is I got two beautiful children that came from that union with Mary Steenburgen, who was amazing and wonderful in the part of Amy, whatever her name was. But you know, it's a beautiful film, and unfortunately, it wasn't a hit at the box office at the time. So I was never asked to play a sort of leading man in that way again. So that was the end of that.
Malcolm, the same year, you made a film called Caligula. And somebody called me when they knew I was going to talk to you, and they said they have a copy of the XXX rated version of it. And they said, did Malcolm know what he was getting involved in? He signed up for a movie. John Gielgud, Peter O'Toole, Helen Mirren, and Malcolm. And it's a pretty racy version. Now, were you aware what you were getting yourself involved in?
Well, of course, one didn't have a crystal ball. I didn't know it was going to be, you know, an out-and-out porno movie. But the porn was added a year later, you know, by Guccione, who was a pornographer. But when I first went to meet with Gore Vidal, who'd written the script, and I said to him, well, Gore, who's actually, what's the studio? You know, who's going to pay for it? And he said, Bob Guccione. I went, Bob Guccione, the pornographer? He went, just think of him as one of the Warner brothers. I went, oh, okay. Big mistake. You know, there are some wonderful things in that film. It's sort of like a really interesting film that's there somewhere, but never quite came out. And there were so many lawsuits between Tinto Brass, the poor director was a terrific man. I liked him very much. And Gore, who, you know, Gore really, he didn't do the rewrites. He wouldn't show up. I don't know what happened. There was something going on between the producers and Gore. And, you know, there was, as often there is on movies, some kind of breach or whatever. And so I never got to any rewrites. I was sort of, you know, tap dancing and trying to figure out how to make this work. And of course, all the people around me were Italian. You know, they didn't really understand the, you know, the subtler points of the English language. And so, you know, I got some help with that, but, you know, of course, had Johnny Gielgud, and John loved it. He really thought the film was fantastic. You know, that everybody on the set pretty much was bollock naked, you know, and he'd come down and go, oh, frightfully good scene. Have you been to the set? I went, no, John, I haven't been there. I'm on my way to oh, I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing. Never seen so much cock in all my life. I went, oh, well, thanks for that. And there's a Knight of the Realm, you know, then O'Toole would say, what's a Knight of the Realm doing in a porno movie? So, oh my God. And thank God for Helen. She was great. And she was a friend of mine. And, you know, I'd worked with her just before we went, I think, to Rome to start this movie. We did this thing in Pinterplay called The Collection, which you can see on YouTube, I think. But with Laurence Olivier and Alan Bates, Helen Mirren, and myself, there's just the four actors in it. And it's a wonderful play of menace, you know, typical Harold Pinter piece. So anyway, there you are. Off we went to Rome to do this thing. It was, I'd like to say, you know, it was fun. But it was a real grind, actually, getting this, you know. Then the money would dry up. I don't know. Then, you know, there'd be a riot outside by the gates of the studio, trying to drive through, people jumping up on my car and banging the thing. And I'm like, what do they think? They think I'm the emperor. They think that I'm actually paying for the damn movie. You know, it was just so bizarre, the whole thing. But as I say, there are some wonderful things in it, but it doesn't really hang together that well.
Can we move on to a few more years? Because did you get any flack when you actually ended up bumping off Captain Kirk in Star Trek Generation in 1994?
I did, Ivor. And, you know, I was quite amazed because I thought people knew that we were, you know, dealing in fantasy. This was a movie, and that, you know, James T. Kirk did not really exist. It was William Shatner, you know, and Patrick Stewart. And by the way, Patrick, I knew from in 1965 at Stratford. We were at Stratford together. So it was sort of fun seeing him when he, you know, they're both wonderful actors. So it was so much fun doing that, really. But I was a bit shocked because it was in the early days of the internet. And my nephew called me and said, "Oh, Uncle Malcolm, you know, there's death threats to you on the internet." And I went, "What's the internet?" He goes, "Oh, it's this thing, you know." And I went, "Jesus, you're kidding me. I mean, don't they know I'm an actor, for God's sake?" I mean, God, and I keep saying, "Bring the other one, I'll do him as well." But so we went to New York, and I had two ex-LAPD officers with me at all times, and I felt totally embarrassed because there was not one person that even could care less, you know. And I'd come out of the hotel, I'd go, "Look, we're going to go and have a hamburger like 10 o'clock at night." I said to the two guys, please don't come. You don't worry. Go eat, go to bed. And there's nobody. And they went, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We've got to be with you. So we'd come out of the hotel, no one. I felt so stupid.
Malcolm, I said we needed 10 hours, and we do. But so I'm going to jump forward a bit to two other projects.
Please.
Mozart in the Jungle, you loved, and you tell me about that character.
I love that. I just love the whole series. I loved every single member of the cast. Gael Garcia Bernal is a genius, one of the best actors I ever worked with. Extraordinary talent. And of course, I got to work with the lovely Bernadette Peters, who I totally love. And we had so much fun, and it was such a terrific idea, and you know, of using a symphony orchestra and kind of looking under the curtain about all the machination, what's going on. And it was basically, you know, sex, drugs, and classical music. It's just like the rock and roll world, a bit more refined, but not much.
Yes.
It was great fun playing Pembridge. You know, he's a pompous ass, but so much fun. And really, it was wonderful to get into the music, you know, and to act. I mean, look, I'm not a conductor, but just emotionally, you get so into it, it doesn't really matter. You know, you're just off and gone. And it was great. I love that show. It's my favorite thing I've ever done on television, I think. That, maybe Entourage too, I enjoyed that.
In the 2019 movie Bombshell, you played Rupert Murdoch. Now, did you base him on any Shakespearean characters?
No, but I could have done. He's like King Lear, isn't he, really? But I just had a wonderful time working with Jay Roach. You know, was such a talented director, and the writer was so wonderful. So all the creative people were fantastic, and Charlize, who, because of her, she produced it actually. And so to work on Rupert, you know, that accent was quite tricky because it was Australian, a bit of London, New York, you know. So yeah, there was quite a few things going on. And I didn't come on, I know, right at the very end, but it was just sort of a week that I spent with them. But I enjoyed it tremendously. It was fun to do.
Thank you. Malcolm, we're running out of time, and I want you to take some questions. So I've got two more questions for you. this is called Up Close and Personal. And I know that you have a brilliant director in the family. Your son is a new Bob Dylan. You have a wife who's a brilliant artist. Do you mind telling us just a wee bit?
Well, Kelly is an amazing designer and architectural designer. She can walk into a place and go, remove this house, bang this wall, raise this, take the ceiling off, go to the... She knows all that. And she also is incredible in the gardens too, because she treats the garden like different rooms. So she's amazing. She really is, and very talented. And then, listen, I've got 5 children. My oldest son, Charlie McDowell, is a brilliant director and writer. And he's working right now with Jason Segel. They're doing a movie. But he's extremely talented. And then we've got Beckett McDowell, who is writing his songs and singing. He's got a beautiful voice, can play incredible guitar, and he's still very young. He's 17, and he's about to break out. I think he thinks he's, on tour. But we've just been making some videos, and I'm, of course, a very proud dad, but I would have a guess that it's going to really fly for him. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great ride watching it. I'm very, very proud of them all. I mean, they're all different. And Finn, my middle one of the 3 boys with Kelly, he's, since the pandemic, he goes to the golf course every day, and now he's a terrific golfer. And so, and then the youngest, he's just getting into it too. So we have a great life here, and Ventura County, I've loved it. I came in 1982, and I love the city of Ventura. It's an amazing city and sort of relatively a secret, relatively. I mean, if it was south of LA, there'd be $10 million homes all over the damn place. It's managed to keep this wonderful, quaint character, I think, and it's such a fantastic place. It really is. Some great restaurants, and it's got everything, a wonderful theater, and a great museum. So please, everybody, support your museum, and however, in whichever way you can do it, just do it, because it's really very much a part of the artistic life of Ventura County. So,
well, thank you. That's a wonderful endorsement. Thank you for doing that. This is my last question, and it's a very tough question to answer, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but millions of people around the world want to hear about it. Do you think Liverpool will win the EPL championship for the 2nd successive year? 50 words or less, please, Malcolm.
They're probably not going to do it this year because they've had some horrendous injuries that have really, even though they're still a wonderful team, but with, I think, 4 or 5 key characters, especially we have one of the best defenders in world football, and once he got injured, it's a knockoff effect. And so are we going to win it? We're going to give it a go. And You know what? The ride will be fantastic. Win or lose, it's always fun. My heart is with my team, Liverpool. I went there as a boy. I've supported them. And then I walked into the cabin and saw the Silver Beetles with this girlfriend I had who loved them. And I could see exactly what she was on about. Those boys were great, and they changed the world for us, and pretty much for everyone too, even in the States. And I remember, I loved the interview you did with Chris last week, Hillman.
Yes.
And he was saying, they all watched the Beatles. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And they were just 4 boys from Liverpool, you know, working class basically. And they changed everything. They changed the whole social fabric, you know. I mean, I'd been working on getting rid of my Liverpool accent. And I get to London and they went, I thought you were from Liverpool. I said, well, I am from Liverpool. They go, well, you don't have the accent. We don't want you in the part. I said, but I can do it. So there you are.
Malcolm, thank you very much indeed. But you're not off the hook yet because Denise is going to come on, and I know we've been bombarded with questions. So Denise, if you're still there, take it away.
Oh, I am still here. I'm riveted. So I've got a list of questions. I don't know that we'll get through all 50 or 60 of them in the next.
Well, we'll do our best.
We'll do our best.
Short answers.
So just Peter McDowell, who's no relationship to you, Malcolm, wants to know of the 3 Lindsay Anderson movies you worked on, which was the most fun to make?
Oh, Lucky Man. Because I wrote the original story for it. And I knew that because I wanted to work with him so badly that I knew that he wouldn't accept any old script, that I'd have to write a script that was organic to what was going on. And we wrote it. I mean, I wrote it with David Sherwin, who'd written If, the first one in the trilogy, so-called. And I think just the whole experience of that, it being sort of part of my life remembrances as a coffee salesman, and the crazy things that happened to me, and the fact that we got it made. I mean, it was amazing. So I think I'd have to say, Oh, Lucky Man. It's a great film, I think, still today, very subversive.
I don't know if this was in the interview with Chris 2 weeks ago, but that is his favorite film of yours. I think we might have talked about that offline, but he said it was his favorite film.
He's a man of good taste, of course.
Yes, he is. So many actors choose not to watch their performances after final completion of a film or project. Do you watch your own performances multiple times, one time? If not, why? If so, which film were you most pleasantly surprised with the final results? This is from Robert Perez.
That's a very good question. Honestly, I don't go out of my way not to see the things I do, but I don't go out of my way to see them. So if they're playing on TV or something, I may flick in and go, oh, you know, oh my God, that was better than I thought. Or, oh my God, I look so old in this, or whatever. You know, it's just all actors are so vain, you know. But I would have to definitely say the first film I did, if I saw it 50 times, I just thought it was, and not because I'm in it, a little bit because I'm in it, but mostly because it's an extraordinary piece of work of Lindsay Anderson. And he was a real artist, you know. He loved John Ford. That was his favorite director of all time. And I asked him, why, Lindsay, do you love John Ford so much? He goes, well, Malcolm, you know, there are many great directors. There are very few poets. John Ford was both. And so was Lindsay.
That's a wonderful answer. I have a question from Alyssa Barber. She wants to know, for so many, it was heartbreaking to hear that David Prowse, the original Darth Vader and Green Cross Code Man, passed away in November. What are your memories of working with him on A Clockwork Orange?
Oh my God. Well, Dave, you know, he was hired basically because he was Mr. Universe. So, you know, he had a gym and he was, I mean, built like a, you know. And so Kubrick had him holding Patrick McGee in a wheelchair, I mean, for the whole day. And, you know, I think some tendons in his shoulder went out. And Stanley's going, I thought he was Mr. Universe. I said, Stanley, you can't expect the man to hold, you know, Patrick McGee in a wheelchair for 10 hours. I mean, you can't expect that. he goes, well, I don't know what's wrong with him. And so poor old Dave, but he was such a nice man. He was from the West Country, had a nice purr in his voice. He was a very nice guy. And I know that when he went in to see them, about Darth Vader and stuff, I know that his expectation was that he'd be playing that part, with the dialogue, And I think it was a bit of a shock for him not to do that. But, listen, they did the right thing because, but he was a tremendously commanding presence in that movie, even with all the stuff as Darth Vader. And the way he moved was absolutely key, and a wonderful performance that's very underrated, I think.
There are a ton of questions, not surprisingly, about A Clockwork Orange, but a couple stand out. Joel Flores wants to know, did playing Alex in Clockwork affect you emotionally, psychologically during the filming?
No, English actors separate, we don't live, well, at least I don't. No, I was just very concerned with doing the performance, not in a naturalistic performance. I did not want to make him this murdering hoodlum. There's nowhere to go. It's after a while, that's boring. So I wanted to highlight and move it into a certain style, and a comedic style, if you like, subtly, not smack you on the head with it. But so that's what I tried to do. And when it opened, I was so shocked that people sat there. The cinema was full. Wherever I went to see it, it was absolutely full. And honestly, at the end of the film, you could hear a pin drop. I mean, and I was thinking, oh my God, they hated it. And then I remember at Cinema One on 3rd Avenue in New York, the first week it opened, I went to see it there, and I went out to the lobby. This poor lady came running out and threw up all over the lobby floor. I went, oh my God, was that the movie, or did she eat something bad? What happened? No, it was the movie. At the time, it was so revolutionary. The look, the subject matter was so extraordinary. It was the first time ever. So, you got to think that now, 50 years later, it's old hat, but still, it's still interesting though. And what's more interesting today is the political content of the film. About Big Brother, the government and all that, but it's the freedom of man to choose. Now, whether the choice is to a moral life or an immoral one, but still, there has to be a choice. That's what it's about for me.
So Leslie Pruitt is asking, do you have any plans for a biography or autobiography in the near future?
Yes, I think I do. And Ivor knows a bit about that. But I think it's probably about time. And I find it so difficult to sit down and write. So I'm going to get a collaborator to help me do it, I think. But I think that I have to get my knowledge down for good or for bad. Whether people are interested or not, I don't really know. But I've done sort of bits of it. I did a movie called Never Apologize about my relationship with Lindsay Anderson. And we made a movie out of it. It was basically a one-man show on the theater. And it turned out very well. And I'm very proud of it. And so that would be part of it. But I think I've got some great stories to tell about Caligula and all those movies, and working with these great, great actors, Olivier, Gielgud, Richardson, O'Toole, and all these great actors.
Well, we're all waiting, so we're ready to buy and read. A couple of people, Donna Granada and Hilda Glummus, want to know, what are your upcoming projects? What do you have on the forefront post-COVID?
You mean, yeah, post-COVID?
Yes.
Well, I've got 3 movies that I said I would do, and they've all been shoved. Now we're talking June, and it looks like in England we're going to be okay because they've pretty much they've vaccinated more people in England than anywhere else to this point. But and also I did this series called Truth Seekers on Amazon, and it's fun. It's sort of like a suburban Ghostbusters, and it's possible it may go into a second year, and if it does, then that'll probably be in London, you know. So later on in the year. So I've got lots of things to do. It's just that I can't really, nobody's really doing anything right now.
Well, we're glad that you're doing this interview with Ivor, because our audience is enjoying it so much.
Good.
So,
I'm so happy.
Miriam Arichea, who's going to be Ivor's next interviewee, wants to know, who was your favorite and most memorable actor or actress to work with? And if there's a funny story or something to go along with that.
Well, I think honestly, the one I admired the most was John Gielgud. You were either a John Gielgud man or a Laurence Olivier man. Now, as a boy, I was taken to the Old Vic to watch the great performances of Olivier, and believe me, they were great. But there was something about him. It was a beautifully crafted work that he always did, but it always seemed to me to be rather detached. Now, I could well be wrong. This is just my thoughts. But John Gielgud always felt the pain of the part. And I mean, God, he could cry at the drop of a hat. I mean, he could cry in a comedy. He used to tell me, "Oh, it is terrible. I can't help it. The tears just come." And but I loved him as an actor, just adored him. But he told me that he preferred Olivier because he said, "Larry is so athletic. He can jump around, and he's also got a great voice." And I said, "Well, John, you have the great voice." He goes, "No, but Larry's more modern." And I know what he meant by that. But Olivier constructed a part by first putting on a nose, fashioning a nose of putty. And so everything was external and then went inside. And which is a great way to work, a great proponent of that right now is Gary Oldman. He's brilliant at it. He puts on all the prosthetics and it's incredible. Gary's also, though, got a lot of heart and feeling. And I work the other way. I work from the inside out, so for whatever reason, I don't know why it came about, but it just did. So.
Thank you so much. Well, we could continue on into the evening, but we're going to hold you to your promise to come to the Ventura Museum and have that film series and the talk. We look forward to having you in person. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ivor to ask a few last questions, but thank you so much, Malcolm. It was so wonderful to have you this evening.
Pleasure. And I want to thank everyone who tuned in, because I know things are weird and all the rest of it, but thank you. And please support the museum. It's very important for the artistic life of everyone in Ventura County. And even up here in Ojai, if they'll ever take the 33 down there.
Malcolm, I've been watching the people's memos as you were talking. And, thank you for being rich and rowdy, passionate, mesmerizing. This is such a unique opportunity to hear from you. I wish when Broadway opens again, you would go do a one-man show on Broadway, but because there's so much.
Thanks, Ivor. Perhaps you'd like to write it for me. Or perhaps you'd like to perform it. You know, it's only 8 performances a week.
Oh,
Talk about
okay.
run you into an early grave.
Well, my agent will call your agent.
Okay, we'll do breakfast. How about that?
Well, listen, Malcolm, thank you for the time, and thank you for entertaining us so royally. And I want to thank everybody at the museum. Obviously, Elena and Denise, Eric, Jonathan, and I want to thank Lorenzo for the film.
Oh, yeah, Lorenzo.
And thank David Comden, who gave me some early pictures. And just thank you, everyone. Tune in, if you will, to Miriam Arichea, who is a remarkable lady, and you will enjoy it, I'm sure. Donate to the museum, and as Malcolm says, support your museum, please, because we want you around and we want to see you when normal life is resumed. So I want to thank everybody again, particularly Malcolm, for a great, great wrestling, wonderful, humorous thing.
Well, as we're all thanking everyone, what about a thanks to you, Ivor? Because I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't called me. And it's always nice to have had friendship through the years. So thank you. And it's great that you're also a Ventura County resident. And by the way, we will definitely do lunch. And now we're allowed to sit outside. So I will call you. I'll take my iPad in that's broken, the screen, get it fixed, and we'll have lunch. Okay? Thanks for everybody for tuning in.
Malcolm, will you pay for lunch? Will you pay?
No, I'm Scot-Irish. We never, ever pay the bill for lunch. You know that.
Okay, well, we'll go Dutch.
Oh, good God. Bring another nationality in. Okay, we'll go Dutch. Okay, that's fine with me. No, I'll be happy to take you to lunch.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. All the best. Stay well, and thank you, everyone.